All right, welcome to the Longview News Journal studios at the third floor of the Longview News Journal here in Longview, Texas, for the Zone Live playoff edition, guys. This is what I know the teams have been working for, but in a way, this is what we've been working for all year. I mean, it's been exciting every week, and enjoy talking about all the teams and giving out information to everybody on the games during the regular season. But man, this is the exciting time. Just welcome everybody again. I'm Jack Stallard. I'm sports editor at the Longview News Journal. As usual, to my left, Hayden Henry. To my right, Brandon Ogden. And a lot of games this weekend, guys. We're going to jump right into it because we actually this is Wednesday, and we start playing playoff games on Thursday. So many teams make the playoffs this time of year. First couple of rounds, you get these Thursday games because everybody wants to play in the nice stadiums. It's kind of a reward for your team making the playoffs, and some really good games. We're going to start out with some 4A games. Kilgore and Jasper. This one is 7:30 Thursday at Abe Martin Stadium in Lufkin. Brandon's going to go down and cover that one. I kind of wrote up a little preview on this one. An interesting matchup of this one. I'm excited to see what Kilgore does. I think Kilgore makes a little run in the playoffs. It could be wrong, but I mean, this is a team that they struggled early, they lost some close games, had some injuries, overcame some of that. I just think they're doing what Kilgore does better than most teams are. They run the ball, and they really started that last week, beat a really good Henderson team. I think they've got a chance to go and beat Jasper, and if that happens, we'll see what happens there. What do you think, Brandon?
A few things. The thing is, Kilgore, like you said, they beat Henderson last week. They come from a really good top-heavy district. They're battle-tested. And then their non-district schedule set them up real well. That game they lost early in the year to Corpus Christi Flower Bluff. That team's sitting undefeated in the middle of the Class 5A rankings right now. So that, and then Jasper. It's hard to compare, results and stuff. But the one that stands out to me is, Jasper lost to Center this season, a Center team that Spring Hill beat, and I just it's hard to gauge things like that. But I think Kilgore, this is one they should get tomorrow night, and like you said, I think they can make a deep run in the playoffs if they get on a roll. And you never count out a Mike Wood coach team that runs the ball well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this time of year, especially, the weather's going to be cold. I don't know about rain or anything like that, but the weather's going to be cold, and that's just good old-fashioned football. You hand the ball off and just pound it on. Let the big guys do the work up front and see what happens. So that should be a good matchup. Speaking of the big guys up front, Hayden Henry's got a good game also tomorrow night. Gladewater sitting at 9-1 against Nevada Community 3-6. This one's at 7:00 at Sam Parker Field in Mount Pleasant. Hayden, talk a little bit about the Bears.
Me and Brandon were just talking about it. He got to see Nevada Community, and they've really got some weapons. Their quarterback has decent numbers, pretty good numbers. They got two wide receivers that can go down the field and make plays. But Gladewater has got weapons on weapons on weapons on both sides of the ball. Running the ball up front both ways is something me and Coach Berry talked about last week. It's one thing that stood out to him about his team is the depth that they have.
Right.
So Gladewater is going to do what they do. They're going to run the ball and they're going to grind it and they're going to play four quarters. And against a Nevada Community team who has the weapons, but four-quarter weapons, I don't think so in this one.
Right. Yeah. The thing that jumped out at me, I was typing in stats for the week, and those will be online probably sometime tomorrow if I get finished typing them. We got a lot of teams this week contributing. I appreciate that. Thing that jumped out at me about Gladewater, looking at their rushing totals, they have 3 kids with over 600 yards, all real close, almost the same number of carries. To me, that just shows unselfishness because any of those 3 kids, if they were at another school, they could be the man. Right. They could be getting the ball 25 times a game. They could be up there, 12, 1,300, 1,400 yards rushing, be leading East Texas. But it sounds like they bought into the system there that Coach Berry has put in. They just want to win. And if that means, I get 10 carries, this guy gets 10 carries, this guy gets 10 carries, everybody's fresh, you get to play a little defense maybe. Yeah, great things for Gladewater.
And that's the same on the defensive line. We know Mac, we know what he does, and Turner, we've talked about him throughout the season. They got 2 other guys up front. Their names are slipping my mind at this moment, but 4 solid guys up there. Yeah. That's depth.
Yeah,
for sure.
Depth and depth and unselfishness, and that's what you look for this time of year, especially. All right, moving on down to Class 3A. A couple of games. White Oak 7-3 against Redwater 5-5. 7:00 Thursday at Pittsburgh. This is one of a couple of rematches we got going on. The Roughnecks 7-3. I said it last week, guys. started the season, I'd kind of written them off. Then they win 3 in a row. I'm like, hey, look out for White Oak, and then they lose 3 in a row, and now all of a sudden they're on a roll heading into the playoffs. Just doing everything right. What do you think, Brandon?
Like you said, these two teams know each other really well. They've opened the season against each other the past 3 years, and White Oak's won all 3 of those. But Coach Iskey last week when I talked to him said it's hard to keep beating a team. He said Redwater's going to be ready, but White Oak's been on a roll lately. They're averaging a little over 42 points a game during their 4-game winning streak. And they're holding opponents to just 5 points per game in that stretch. So they're getting it done on both sides, offense and defense. They force a lot of turnovers, and quarterback Cordell Smith doesn't turn over. They've thrown 1 interception this year in 290 total passes between White Oak quarterbacks, and they forced 26 turnovers. So that's a good recipe for success right there.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna win some ball games that way. Another rematch, and this one I'm excited. I actually get to go cover a football game for a change this week. I usually stay in the office, but Sabine Cardinals against Winsboro. Sabine 6-4, Winsboro 7-3. This one's at 7:00 Thursday at Buckeye Stadium in Gilmer. We've talked about it earlier. Brandon wrote about it in our Sunday paper. Got a good story on the Cardinals coming tomorrow. Brandon went out and visited with them. This is Sabine's first trip to the playoffs since '85. And guys, let's kind of give you a little bit of how old I am and how long I've been doing this. I started in '87 as a sports writer at the Kilgore News Herald, and Sabine was one of the teams that we covered. And at that point, the playoff drought was 2 years. So, and I've been doing this now for a long time. So, it's great to see out there. And this one is a rematch. Sabine and Winsboro played early in the season. This one went 4 overtimes, and Winsboro won that one. I think it was 26-23 or 23-20.
23-20, yeah.
23-20. So, you got to love it for Sabine. We talked last week about Coach Jackie Lloyd at Harleton and the fact that he's a baseball coach, first, and took over a football program, doing good things. Coach Mark Comfort at Sabine, he's a softball coach. He's won 300 softball games in his career, and now he's got Sabine in the playoffs in football. Any thoughts on this one, Hayden?
Oh no, just excited for this. Sabine and Coach Comfort.
He's getting ready to talk about the Lobos. He's ready to roll over here. All right, before we move on to the Lobos, though, one more game on Thursday. Harleton, San Augustine. Harleton's 8-2. San Augustine 5-5. That one is 7:30 Thursday in Carthage. Good matchup there. I think Harleton's got their work cut out for them with Sabine quarterback JaMichael Roberts. He got a little honor today. He's the Belfort Tough Player of the Week in Class 2A. So a dangerous man. So some good games Thursday night. Now let's move on to Friday. Let's talk about the Longview Lobos. I know Hayden's interested. Hayden's anxious to talk some Lobos. Speaking of rematches, Longview 8-2 versus Lufkin 6-4, 7:30 Friday at Rose Stadium in Tyler.
Yep, meeting number 76 overall. They had 75 like in the first game of the season, a 44-14 Lufkin win that kind of set the stage for Longview and how they went throughout the season. They dropped the next game to John Tyler and then won out ever since. Had a dominating run through district as expected. Obviously 2 different teams on both sides from now until dating back to August 29th. They're hitting Lufkin. It's probably one of the most balanced teams in East Texas. They're running the ball well. They're 212 rushing yards per game, throwing for 193. Steven Sal, 1,300 yards. Trey Cumby, 70% completion rate, 1,900 yards. I guess Lobo defense is doing the same kind of thing. They went through the season holding opponents to 3.1 yards per carry, 20 interceptions, led by Jordan Walker had 3 the other night. He had 8. It's been a big part of the Lobo's success. An area of concern is they're averaging, or when opponents complete the ball, they're averaging 13.7 yards per catch. That kind of bit them in that Lufkin game early on. It's going to be a good smash mouth game, and it's probably hard pressed to find a better by-district matchup this early on.
Yeah, absolutely, and we talked about it, early in the season, that it looked like this could be the matchup. Whoever Longview played in that first round was going to be, you're looking at either John Tyler, Ennis, Corsicana, Nacogdoches, or White House, any of those, or Lufkin. Any of those teams were going to be a tough first round matchup. So this one's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and I got a question for Hayden. How important was it last week for Longview to get that test they got from Hallsville? Because Lufkin obviously is going to be battle tested through their district facing Ennis, John Tyler. How important was that last week for Longview to kind of get a little test? Because they hadn't been tested in a while. How important do you think that was?
I think it was very big. some of those things were caused self-inflicted, with some issues on the Longview side with penalties and some turnovers, which haunted them the first game. They started off the season with a -3 turnover margin right out of the gate. They're entering Friday with a +12. So they obviously turned that around. But it was a big game. Hallsville was a scrappy contest for sure, and I think that was big going forward. Longview didn't necessarily wrap up the district run with a bow, but like you said, a hard test going forward. Another thing about Tyler Miller, we were just looking at it. I looked up the very first play from the Longview-Lufkin game in August. Lufkin stuffed him for -2 yards. Since then, he's had 6 carries go for negative yards out of 159 touches. So, JaMichael Hasty touched the ball twice last week. Little breakdown up front, I think, led to, and maybe he saw the end zone a little too much because he was going in to score, fumbled the ball, led to a Hallsville score, then had a nice 18-yard catch out of the slot for a first down. He practiced a lot this week. Last week was kind of costly. They lost Keenan Madden with an injury on his knee. He had 4 picks for Longview. Marquise Hunter's day today. It's kind of a big loss for Longview. He has got 481 yards, 8 touchdowns. But what he does out of the backfield in terms of blocking is big. They got sophomore Travian Webster, 26 carries, 215 yards, 3 touchdowns this year. Really smart football player. They're really high on him. Kind of wish they would have saved him, for a little down the road. But he's going to be stepping up big for him this week, along with Emmanuel Gordon, Jordan Wyatt, and Eric Maxwell at tight ends. Going to see a lot of tight ends. It's going to be ground and pound for the Lobos as it's been all year. Just a battle. Really.
Yeah, two battle-tested teams. This should be maybe the game of the week in East Texas. All right, moving on. Some more Friday games. I'm just going to have to touch quickly on most of these. Marshall and Nacogdoches, 6-4 Marshall, 7-3 Nacogdoches. And you can say the same thing about these two teams. I mean, battle-tested. You make it through these districts. Marshall made the playoffs last year. Kind of. I won't say they snuck in at 2-8, I believe. Won the games they needed to. This year, I think they were a team that everybody said, okay, Marshall will make the playoffs. Yeah, they did.
Still kind of snuck in.
They still kind of snuck in. They still struggle a little bit. But again, you're coming from a good district.
Yeah.
Coming from a good district, it happens. And Nacogdoches is super talented. Moving down to 4A, we've got Athens and Pittsburgh. That one's a 7:30 Friday at Mesquite Hamby. Henderson and Silsbee, 7:30 Friday in Lufkin. Henderson, again, 8-2. They kind of crashed a little bit against Kilgore. I think Kilgore, again, maybe it's a wake-up call. Henderson kind of cruised up into that point, and that could have done Henderson a world of good being able to do it. Another, a big game for Gilmer. Gilmer and Pleasant Grove. Buckeyes sitting at 10-0. Pleasant Grove 6-4. That one's 7:30 Friday in Hallsville. I don't know what else to say about the Buckeyes, guys. We're talking about them before the game, or before we got on the air here. Just too many weapons. I just don't see anybody touching them for a long time. We mentioned a possible Gladewater matchup down the road. We'll discuss that when it happens. Right now Gilmer's just anybody that they hand the ball to is a threat to go. They play great defense. I don't know how you coach that. I don't know what you do as a coach when you put on film and show your kids. I would almost not do that. I would almost not show film of Gilmer because you're going to put your kids in a bad mood right there, make them have nightmares, have to sleep with a nightlight. And, you'll see Jeff Traylor coming out of your closet at night if you know. So I don't think I would be wanting to do that to my kids. Anyway, all right, moving on. A couple more. Class 3A, Wascom, Linden Kildare, 9-1 Wascom, Linden Kildare 2-8. Whitney Keeling and Coach Elliott at Linden Kildare, Whitney Keeling at Wascom, Coach Elliott at Linden Kildare, they coach together. Coach Keeling's not taking this one for granted. He's not taking this team lightly. He knows the coach and he knows that he'll have them ready. So that one should be a good one. Hugh Springs and New Diana. This one's intriguing to me, guys. What do you think on this one? Hugh Springs 7-3, New Diana 3-7. That one's 7:30 Friday in New Boston. I think New Diana's better than 3-7.
I think so too. We tracked Joby Ainsworth throughout the season. They're making plays, with the arm. Hugh Springs runs the ball. just a weird kind of matchup there. I think that's a coin flip as well.
Yeah, I think Hugh Springs is throwing the ball a little bit this year, but they like to run the ball.
Yeah.
They're going to run the football. And a couple more Friday games. Orr City 8-2 versus Shelbyville 8-1. That one's 7:30 Friday at West Rusk. Don't know much about Shelbyville other than 8-1, but we
their
know a
only
lot
loss
about
was
Ore
last
City.
week against a good West Sabine team.
Right.
So just looking at who Shelbyville's beating, I can tell they're a pretty good team, and this is gonna be a pretty good game.
I'm interested to see how Ore City does in the playoffs. I mean, they started out 8-0, obviously. Or were they 8-0? Yeah.
I think it was 7-0,
7-0.
and then they won last week, but they lost 2 in a row.
Correct. So yeah, I mean, they kind of, when you talk about losing, though, you lose to Harleton and you lose to Union Grove. Those are two pretty good teams. So that should be a good matchup there. Last two Friday games, and then we'll talk about a few Saturday games. Carlisle and Groveton, 8-2 Carlisle, 4-6 Groveton. That's 7:30 Friday in Bullard. Coach Rocky Baker, Wesley Colley, those guys do a great job at Carlisle. They're always in the mix. That should be fun. And Overton, 4-6 versus Norman, G6-4. That one's 7 o'clock Friday in White House. So some good games there. And then Saturday, if you don't want to sit around watching college football and you want to get out in the cold a little bit and watch some good high school football, we've got 3 games in the area.
There's actually another one that Carthage you don't have listed.
I left Carthage Bulldogs off. Sorry about that. Carthage is playing Little Cypress Mauriceville. That one is in
Lufkin.
In Lufkin, 7 o'clock. My correct you on that. Sorry about that. The Bulldogs, can't leave those guys out. I mean, they're defending state champions. I think another one of those teams kind of hard to figure right now. I think they're playing well. I think they have plenty of offense, and it seems like their defense has gotten a lot better.
Definitely. And I had a buddy that's tracked them all throughout the season, went to Chapel Hill last week, and he was surprised. I mean, he's seen the progression, but he said they came out and was dominant from the very beginning in that one. Kind of a surprising win. Not really as surprising, I think, as Kilgore beating Henderson, but Carthage over Chapel Hill last week was a big win to get this going.
And Carthage has the team that could be one of those that gets on a roll in the playoffs. We've seen that. We saw it with Gladewater last year. I think Kilgore has that possibility this year. And Carthage, too, they have all the talent in the world. And when you have a quarterback that can do the things that Jared Blissett does, just about anybody they put in the backfield is going to run the ball well, and they're going to play defense. So it should be a good matchup there. A little closer to home, Tatum 5-5 and Bullard 7-3. That one's at 5:30 Saturday at Pine Tree. Tatum again, one of those teams a little hard to figure. You've seen them this year.
Yeah, they're a lot better than 5-5. I mean, they've played a real tough schedule. I mean, they were a possession. They lost to Gilmer with 26 seconds left, so that tells you about all you need to know. But Bullard's a really good team too. Bullard in district gave Gilmer its toughest district game. Played with them. It was close for a while and ended up 49-7. So this should be a good one.
That tells you all you need to know about Gilmer. One of the toughest tests for 49-7. But I agree. I mean, Bullard is a pretty good football team, so that should be. All right, and the last couple of games we got on Saturdays, we got Jefferson 6-4 versus New Boston 9-1. That's 2 o'clock Saturday in Mount Pleasant. And Legion Field 7-3, and Paul Pewitt 3-7. That's 2 o'clock Saturday in Hallsville. Both those games, if you look at Jefferson, very talented team. Sitting at 6-4, but if you look at the numbers they put up, their quarterback P.J. Laster's got great numbers. They have a receiver Ty Lafayette that he can play with anybody, and they play good defense. New Boston, that's a different animal right now. They have been on such a roll last 4 or 5 years.
And they haven't lost since that opener against Atlanta, so
exactly. And Atlanta's a solid 3A play or 4A playoff team, so should be good there. And then Elysian Fields and Paul Pewitt. Paul Pewitt guys, you can just. It doesn't matter what the record is. You can pencil them down as a playoff team every year. I'd have to look it up, but something like 18 out of the last 19 years or something. I mean, Paul Pewitt's going to be in the playoffs. They started slow. They always do. They always play a tough schedule early. You look at their record, not that impressive, but I think they've got a chance to do some things. And Elysian Fields, a lot of weapons. I think they played one of the KYKX games over at Lobo this year. Is that the one you saw also?
Yeah, it was them and New Diana.
Elysian Fields, New Diana ended up, last possession game, just a ton of points between both teams. So a lot of weapons there. So I think that one should be a lot of fun too. That's the list of games we got locally. Not sure how we're doing on time here. Jessica says we need to wrap it up. We're just rambling, guys, but it's playoff time.
Yeah, it's fine.
But anyway, guys, listen, we be sure. I mean, we're going to have people at all the games Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So pick up the Longview News Journal each of those days. The next day, follow us on etvarsity.com. Look for previews, look for stats and everything tomorrow, and we'll have everything you need to know about the playoffs. And we'll be back next week at this time, 5:30 on Wednesday. Thanks for joining us.